Hey VC, Thijs here. So recently this box set came out a few weeks ago, Mr. Bungle, quote unquote. This is, oops, that's why. This is the Warner Brothers years. And this box kind of inspired me to make a video about the singer from Mr. Bungle, which is Mikepatton. Mikepatton is a very talented and versatile singer, probably best known to the public for his time with Faith No More. I think we know these albums. Angel Dust, these are reissues from Music on Vinyl, King for a Day. These are probably my two favorites of Faith No More. But overall, I think he's kind of overlooked in the grand scheme of things. Like I said, he's very versatile. I mean, Faith No More is quite experimental to begin with for a rock band. But outside of that band, he does a lot more experimental stuff. And he was actually one of the artists that that really opened my mind and my view on music and how music doesn't have to be compartmentalized as much. And you know, that one particular artist can perform in many different genres. Because he sings jazz, he sings hardcore, he sings metal, he sings punk, rock, soul, pop, Italian chansons. Well, that's not a thing, I guess, it's French chansons. Italian pop music. And he also has released some solo efforts lately that are has some vocals, but is also musical. A lot of electronic stuff. I wasn't into Faith No More or knew even of Mikepatton. I wasn't aware of the heydays in the 90s, really. I was kind of living under a rock at the time. But in the early 2000s, I stumbled upon this CD, The Big Gun Down, which is John Zorn plays the music of Ennio Morricone. And this is a CD reissue of this record, which came out in the 80s. And so this reissue, the CD reissue, has bonus tracks. Excuse the glare. And one of them is the Ballad of Hank McCain, which has vocals by Mikepatton. I'll put a little sample of that here.
No one knows better than McCain that an angry man goes blind, knocks his head against the wall.
So that was probably my first exposure to Mikepatton, and then in the mid 2000s, I got more into him through. I found out Mr. Bungle. I found out Tomahawk, a band he's in, Fantomas, a band he's in, and then slowly but surely I found out he had a label. So this is right around the same time that Wikipedia kind of became a thing, and I'm not sure I was on Discogs yet, but yeah, like I found out how many projects he's been involved in, and started listening to his music, and was really impressed that as a vocalist, how broad his range was and is. I think he's in his early to mid 50s now, and he still belts it out like there's no tomorrow. It's quite impressive. So I kind of wanted to show some records he's been involved in over the years, and yeah, go from there. So the first band he was in was Mr. Bungle. Though the first time he would put a record out with his voice on it was with Faith No More, but I'll get into that. So Mr. Bungle formed in the mid 80s in Eureka, California. A bunch of high school friends. Mikepatton was on vocals and electronics already a little bit. And Trace Spruance on guitar and Trevor Dunn on bass. And they started as a death metal band. And put out a bunch of demos, and then kind of morphed from death metal into thrash metal. And then in the late 80s, Patton kind of got poached by Faith No More as the new lead singer. And that put Mr. Bungle kind of on the back burner for a little bit. But because of his success with Faith No More, they were able to get signed to Mr. Bungle by Warner Brothers. And the first record they released was self-titled, Mr. Bungle. Pretty iconic cover. Mr. Bungle, which was produced by none other than Zorn. And all the Bungle releases I'm going to show now are from the recent box set that came out. And this is probably my least favorite of the Warner Brothers years. They only did 3 records on Warner Brothers, mostly because Mikepatton was, well, the whole band was busy with their own thing, but Patton was really busy with Faith No More. So Mr. Bungle, self-titled. Then after this, that was in 91. Then in 95, they put out Disco Volante. Another iconic cover. This gets a lot. So the first record, Mr. Bungle, was honestly a little immature for my taste, lyrically more than anything. But musically, they were definitely experimental. They had some ska elements, they had some jazz, some rock, metal, even some tango. But they were in a lot more experimental here. They have techno in here. They have free jazz. I think they had a saxophone player only here. And then this is definitely their most experimental album. And this was hard to come by as far as a good copy goes on vinyl. The pressings were always shit. They were always, though this is a pretty long record. This is close to an hour, I want to say. And they finally released it on 2 discs. Actually, all these records from Mr. Bungle are on 2 discs, which is gives us room for the sound, you know. And they're obviously not an audiophile band, but the copies were unlistenable. So when the box set came up for pre-order, and they mentioned they were all remastered along 2 discs, and the previous copies I've owned of these albums just sounded like shit, like I said. And so what I did is I sold my copy of this album. I had a reissue on Plain Records, California. Came out in 99 or 2000. And that basically funded this whole box set. And I'm glad I did, because these records on 2 discs sound a lot better than they ever did on a single disc. I mean, they still don't sound mind-blowing sonically, but musically a lot more information comes through, and it's just more enjoyable in that way. So yeah, so these three albums, they came in this box set. I don't think right now, I don't think right now these are for sale individually. I'm not sure if that's going to be a thing down the line, but I would, I mean, I think it's like $140, $30, but worth it in my mind. If you like rock music, but you like it with an experimental tone, experimental edge, jazz, ska, tango, definitely recommend it. And yeah, so back to California real quick. This is probably the most mainstream sounding one. Definitely experimental still, especially for a rock album. But if you don't know Mr. Bungle, this is probably the one to get into first. And then Mr. Bungle broke up right after that album. Or broke up, or they went on hiatus, whatever you want to call it. That was in 2000. And they only came back recently, right before the pandemic. They announced a few shows. But they're going back to their death metal roots. They even released their first death metal demo from the 80s. They re-recorded it as adults and released it, but it was not really my thing. Those three Warner Brothers albums, especially the last two, California and Disco Volante, are the ones to go with, I would say. So I'm not going to go too much into Faith No More. I kind of want to focus on his solo and different projects. So as I mentioned, Mikepatton worked quite a bit with John Zorn. Zorn produced the first Bungle album, and then I discovered Patton through this CD reissue. And they actually formed a band together with Trevor Dunn, also from Mr. Bungle, and Joey Barron on the drums, and Zorn on saxophone. And John Zorn mostly releases his stuff on CD, which is a bummer, but financially I guess it makes sense because right now he's kind of slowed down, but he used to release like 10 to 20 albums a year. So, doing that on vinyl is just not sustainable, obviously. So some of the albums that they did together under the Moonchild moniker is The Crucible. And like I said, it has Mikepatton on voice, Zorn on alto sax, Trevor Dunn on bass, and Joey Barron on drums. And also this one has Mark Ribot on one song on guitar. Crucible, love this CD. Then another one, they're doing Songs Without Words, which is the three of them. Zorn I don't think he's playing on this, if I recall. I haven't heard it in a while. He just was the artistic director, if you will. So it's just drums, bass, and voice. And as the album is called, Songs Without Words, almost all the songs that Patton sings on with John Zorn is vocals. And then in the intro, the song where he was singing solo vocals is from this album. This is called Six Litanies for Heliogabalus. Yeah, so it's the same crew of people. Joey Barron, Mikepatton. Oh, it also has Ikue Mori on electronics, Jamie Saft on organ, and but the rest is all the same. It has a chorus as well, with three singers right there. Great, would love to have this on vinyl, but has never been issued as such. So then, one cool thing that Zorn put out about 10 years now, the Song Project. And this is basically, this is 6 or 7 inches. With songs written and composed by John Zorn, but they actually added vocals to it now, but with words. And they have different vocalists on every track. So I'll show these real quick. And Mikepatton is one of them. Other vocalists are Sophia Ray, an Argentine singer. There is, who else is on here? Jesse Harris, who wrote what's her name? God, what did he write? That song for Norah Jones, biggest hit, I forget the name, Come Away With Me, something like that. So yeah, this is a cool little set. And the band is Mark Ribot, Trevor Dunn on bass, Mark Ribot guitar. Actually, it probably says it in here. Yeah, so you have, this is the whole band. John Medeski, Mark Ribot, Kenny Wallison on vibes, Sarah Bautista on percussion. And these are all players that work with Zorn many, many times over. That's cute, nice little booklet. There's lyrics for all the songs. That's Patton right there. Sophia Ray, Patton, and Jesse Harris as the three singers. So yeah, cool compilation. So next, let's go into some side projects. One of these side projects that Mikepatton has been involved in is Tomahawk, which is basically a rock band. Excuse me, putting this away. It's basically a rock band that has a bit of an edge, you know. It's noise rock, avant rock, if you will. The other big players in that band is Dwayne Dennison on the guitar from the Jesus Lizard, and on drums, I can never remember this guy's name, the guy from Battles, John Stanier. So most of the records are kind of avant rock records, like I said, but this is an interesting one. This is Anonymous, and this is their third album, I want to say. And these are basically reworked songs of original arrangements inspired by Native Americans from the late 19th century. So maybe I'll put a little clip here. So yeah, it's a little different, it's cool. And then another band he's been involved in is with Trevor Dunn again from Mr. Bungle and Zorn collaborations. That's Fantomas. Oh, and another person in the band that people will know is, what's this guy's name? From the Melvins, singer, guitar player, Buzz Osborne. So these records never came out on, well, these albums never came out on vinyl, but they were released, until they were released on Record Store Day, God, what year was this, 2013, 14 maybe? They released this box, Wunderkammer, which is like German for wonderful room, I suppose. It's a cool little box. I'm not gonna show all the records now, but yeah. So this band is, they focus mostly on cinematic music with a rock edge. Their first album, the director's cut, is covers of known songs. They do some Morricone, some Mancini, some Carpenter. The Godfather theme, I think they do. And then the albums, I think they did 3 or 4 total. The albums after that first album, director's cut, they were more soundtracks to movies they made up in their head. And it's funny because I was talking to Jose on one of his streams, I don't know, a few months ago. Like, I like soundtracks without watching the movie sometimes, and this is kind of probably what got me there. Just music where there's no soundtrack music when there's no movie attached to it. So that's Tomahawk, Fantomas. So those are bands he's been in with multiple records. Then he did a few one-offs too. One of them is this one with Adam Drucker and Tunde from TV on the radio, and this is called Neverman. It's a cool little sleeve here. This is interesting actually. This is, well, all of it is interesting to me. This is rock, has some soul, it has some R&B, it has some noise. It's, I feel like this is a very underrated album. They only made one album, they had a few singles, 12 Inches come out, remix, I think Boards of Canada did a remix of one of the tracks. I didn't grab those, but this album is quite underrated, I would say. Neverman, and it's self-titled. Then he also did a collaboration with Nathaniel Merriweather, which is a pseudonym of Dan the Automator. And this box set came out, I want to say recently, and it came out as a record, as a double LP, but this is a box set, 4 LP, Lovage. Nathaniel Merriweather presents Lovage, music to make love to your old lady by. So this is with Mikepatton and Jennifer, what's her name? Charles. This is, I'll put a little clip here too. This is
you and me are a disease, and the germs are spreading. Use me like Listerine, keeping your breath fresher. Feel the stroke of your paintbrush, my blank sheet of paper. I'm your book of the month, read the fine print later.
This is a box set because it has the record itself, the first two, and then it has the instrumentals as the third and fourth disc. So this is quite interesting. So then some one-offs, so in this case 2-offs. He formed a band with Anthony Pateras, I want to say he's Australian, electronic pianist, musician, and the band is called Tetema. And the first album they released is Geocidal. It's this one. This is experimental rock with electronic elements, as is implied, with players. Cool insert. So this is called Geocidal, Tetema. And then the second album is Necroscope, which is a really cool cover. It's like textured, whatever that is. Also on the back. I'll put a little clip too. Again, his solo work is, I feel, is very, very underrated. A solo or like, you know, collaborations in this case. Then he also had an album with, I think this guy's from Sweden, Kada. This album is called Kada Patton. And no, the album is called Bacteria Cult. And this is in a similar vein as the previous records I showed, Tetema. But this has some orchestral elements as well. I'll put a little clip as well for you to listen to. It's a nice record, again, underrated. Cool cover, all right. Then he did an album with none other than Jean-Claude Vanier. This came out, I don't know, right before the pandemic, I want to say. Corpse Flower. Very cinematic, and then he actually sings on this quite a bit, Mikepatton, with a little bit, I think he does some of the music as well, but the music is mostly done by Jean-Claude Vanier. Another one that kind of went under the radar, I feel like. And then lastly, I want to show some of his solo works. This is an interesting record. This is an original, which is hard to come by for a long time, but I got it when it came out. Mikepatton Mondo Cane. So I want to say his wife or ex-wife is Italian, and he lived in Italy for a while. He learned the language, and this is all Italian standard pop songs. It's very interesting concept, and not something that I listen to all the time, but it's definitely enjoyable. So Mondo Cane. Oh, I closed it wrong. Yeah, this is the OG. I think it's been reissued recently, so you should be able to get it for much cheaper. And then I'm gonna end doing the unthinkable, showing a few more CDs. This is a movie that came out in 2008, A Perfect Place. And Mikepatton did the score slash soundtrack. This has the movie and the soundtrack. And actually, I don't think I've seen the movie yet. If I did, I don't remember. So this came out on Ipecac, which is actually his label with the other guy's name, Greg Workman. Label he created in the late 90s, early 2000s, and most of his stuff these days comes out on his own label, including when Faith No More reunited, like 10 years ago. That album came out on Ipecac. The Mr. Bungle reissues and the Mr. Bungle new releases, the death metal ones, came also out on Ipecac. And then last, this is a cool CD, The Solitude of Prime Numbers, which is a book that I actually read before the movie. Usually I read the book after the movie, if I read the book at all. And it's interesting, it's cool that these tracks actually show up in on the display of the CD player as prime numbers, so it skips the non-prime numbers. And it's a cool soundtrack. Movie is by Paul Giordano. Prime numbers are divisible only by one, and by themselves they stand in a place defiantly in the infinite series of natural numbers, squashed in between two others, but a step further on than the rest, suspicious and solitary. Yeah, also cool little soundtrack. And so yeah, that's my Mikepatton. Actually, I have one more. An EP he did with. It also came out on Ipecac, I think. No, actually, no, it didn't. But this is with Zorn and the Klapagore. Bylight EP he did, and it's Zorn and Klapagore, for those who don't know. It's kind of like a doom jazz outfit from Germany. And usually they don't have vocals at all, but on this record or EP, they do one track, Catch My Heart, which I think is a heavy metal cover from an 80s German band that I don't, what does it say in the back? Oh, Warlock from the 80s. The original track, I looked it up before this video, was like 5 minutes, and this one is 14 minutes, so they stretch it out quite a bit. So usually they don't do vocals, but Patton sings on Catch My Heart. And that's it. That's my Patton overview. I think he's quite underrated. He's a very talented, like I said, well, I'm repeating myself over and over, very talented, versatile singer to this day. So thanks for watching. Hope everyone's well, and see you on the next one.